Good evening, everybody. Good evening. We are welcome again, once again, to navigate life class. You're welcome. You're welcome. Good evening, everybody. Good to have us back. Some persons are not joining us for the first time. Yeah, some persons are not joining us for the first time, so you're welcome back. And some persons are not seeing my face for the first time, so you're a first timer. You're welcome. And you're a second or third timer, you're also welcome. So please, if you know anyone that needs to be here, kindly send them a reminder and tell them that we have started and we are live. We are about to take flight. So please, if you know anyone that needs to be here, send them the link. We are live on YouTube. They can connect and be a part. Yes. So once again, we are welcome. You are welcome. Are we ready? If you're ready, type in the comment section, I am ready. I am ready. If you are ready, type I am ready. Some person's blood are boiling. I know, I understand. I understand. Some person's blood, I want to know what's going on, just like Kidi was saying on the group, on the WhatsApp group. I want to understand. Yeah, Mary said she had to use like an AI to ask some people's boys, some people's blood. Yeah, don't worry, do the counts. Yeah, do the counts. Show that by the end of today's session, you would be more informed. You'll be more informed and less confused on Nigerian tax law and how to navigate through it. You're welcome once again. This is Navigate Your Life class, and you are welcome. Without wasting much of our time, I can see that most persons are ready. They are ready. So without wasting much of our time, we will be going directly into what we have for today. So we have with us, yes, I'm going to be speaking to hospital and to, so yes, we have me, Elizabeth Brown. Yeah, I wear many hats. And one of the hats I wear is I'm an accountant. So we also have a barrister, a lawyer with us in the building, and he's going to be telling us. Don't worry, I'm here. I didn't run away. I didn't run away. I'm here. So yes, we have me, and then we also have barista Ayomide Eribake. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Forgive me in advance.
It's okay.
Yes, we have, and we'll be welcoming him upstage to take us into what the Nigerian tax law is all about and how we can navigate through it. So, yes, we said this session is open for both students, remote workers, freelancers, business. If you are a Nigerian, you're a Nigerian, it's for you, right? So, you are welcome once again. So, if your hands are not too busy, welcome me, join me as I welcome Barrister Ayomide as he takes over from this point. So you're welcome, sir. We are glad to have you. Thank you for being available to take us through this pressing is a pressing topic on the lips of every Nigerian. Everybody like, hey, tax bro, haha. So thank you so much once again, sir. The floor is yours.
Hi everyone. Good evening. As Elizabeth has said, my name is Ayomide Reebok here. Um, for one, I think the best place to start would be the essence of taxation. And to be honest, taxes are very, very important. They're something that, as citizens of our country, Nigeria, we have to pay. We should pay. We must pay. We cannot say we don't want to pay because at the end of the day, it's something that benefits us as a people. Um, I would say that, or I would argue that the tax law in itself is quite comprehensive in terms of the fact that it combines so many tax laws into one place. The Capital Gains Tax Act, the Value Added Tax Act, the Stamp Duties Act. It's combined so many laws into one particular piece of legislation, which I think in itself is a work of, for the lack of a better word, a work of art. Because if you go through it, it's like quite comprehensive and it details a lot of things that everyone has to consider. It affects entertainers, it affects businesses, it affects us as individuals. It genuinely is one, like has been said, that raises a lot of interest. So, how exactly? What are the things that we need to note? I think the first thing, like I said, in terms of entertainers, is the fact that before the act, so the act is to come into place January 2026. Before the act, entertainers didn't necessarily have to pay royalties. And I mean, it would be understandable back then because the entertainment industry is one that Nigeria has tried to build over time. And it's one that has now grown into something monumental. We have artists all over the world. We talk about Afrobeats to the world, Burna Boy, Whiskey, Davido. Everyone's out there. They're all doing great. Same time, Nigeria also needs that money. And I think it makes sense for Nigeria, the government, to be able to tax them in terms of royalties. So they make a lot of money. And so Nigeria definitely needs that royalty. So arguments will be made that why would they want to tax them? But I think if you look at countries around the world, if you look at the UK, if you look at the US, they also tax on royalties and a lot of them tax heavy. So if you have plans to actually build your society, you need to be able to think of new ways to be able to make money. And like I've said, Afrobeat is something that has grown around the world. And if we cannot tap into the market, then there is a problem. If we're exporting something to the world and money is supposed to come into the country, one of the ways we can do that is through royalties. Our movies are literally moving all around the world. Funke Akindele is doing a premiere of her movie in the UK, about 10 cities, I think. And you can imagine how much money that is. Obviously, there is the cost, but you also have to look at the fact that there obviously is money coming in, and the government, well, whether we like it or not, will want to have their own piece of it. So that's the first stage, royalties. Then the next stage is sports betting or lottery services in Nigeria. And again, this is something that has continued to grow. It is an industry that probably went from millions of naira, if you want to say, to billions of naira. Statistics show that at least every year, the least off the top of my head that is being spent on sports betting is not less than 20 billion. And that is a lot of money. So if that amount of money is going around in terms of winning, in terms of how much people are putting in, then the government has to definitely make some money out of it. And I mean, people might make some arguments, but this is one argument that I have made for a couple of years now in terms of the government being able to actually tax the winnings from sports betting. It's an argument that I've made for probably 2, 3 years. And when I saw that being done by the government, I'm like, fair enough, it makes sense. So the reason why I stuck to that position in terms of taxing is the argument has always been sports betting is bad. Do we ban it? And my question genuinely has always, my answer has genuinely been no. Instead of putting a ban to it, the government can actually profit off it while regulating it. So what's the regulation? People under 18 cannot be involved in sports betting, quite frankly. When people win, tax it, you win it. Someone wins 100 million naira. The government obviously should be able to take a part of it. That is my personal opinion. And I feel like it's one of the things that would likely, in a way, dissuade people from going into sports betting, because in Nigeria, there is a sports betting pandemic. So something to actually really consider. And I think it's something that the government has probably thought about. And I think as a whole, the act in itself is one that the government has been able to consider so many ways in which people make money and in which the government can also make money from in terms of taxes. And another thing, another very important thing is in terms of businesses. So Nigeria currently is probably one of the countries with a lot of small, medium scale businesses, and they're continuing to grow. And if you're a business owner, especially a small business owner, I think it's very important to know that once your company is being registered as a small business, you have the luxury of paying 0% tax. But there is a threshold in terms of how much income or how much annual turnover your company has to make every single year. So if you go above that threshold, then your company definitely moves from a small company to a large company. So it's very, very important to keep notes, to keep your books standard, to keep it accurate, which is very important. Speaking of accuracy, I also think this has been an issue that is quite controversial in terms of the Nigeria Revenue Service, which is what the FIRS is going to change from next year. Being able to, I mean, people say they go into your account and then they do this, but I think it's more of the fact that they can look at your books and make assumptions and presumptions and tax you based on their own assumptions. And this will happen again where you do not keep accurate records. So, for a small business owner, for a business owner, I think, and I would suggest that it is very, very important to keep records. What you buy, what you sell, your inventory, the outgoings, the salaries you pay, every single thing you have to keep records because that is very, very important. You do not want the FIRS looking at the business and they look at, oh, okay, this person made 50 million naira this year. Oh, you didn't put how much salaries you've paid, you didn't put how much expenditures you've made. They would just assume that based on the income, 50 million naira, how are we going to tax this person? And then you see maybe they tax like 20 million naira, and you're like, wait, I didn't. So again, it's very, very important. I think one of the suggestions that one can make for businesses, especially, is to have an accountant that goes through the books, that checks the books as frequently as possible. Have a lawyer, someone who can actually ensure that what you are doing is not out of place. So when you're signing agreements, your lawyer is checking in terms of the VAT, in terms of the capital gains tax. Those are very, very important things. When you are buying and selling land, you are looking at the stamp duties. How much stamp duties do you have to pay? So these are very, very important things that, in my opinion, business owners have to take record of. It is very, very important to keep accurate records and to ensure that your books are intact. And so the next thing that I'll also talk about or highlight is virtual assets. And so these are in terms of cryptocurrency, in terms of digital coins. And I mean, again, like I've said over time, the act in itself is quite forward thinking. It has looked at several things that Nigerians have been doing, looked at several ways or several means in which money has been coming into the country, and has tried as much as it can to adapt to the would I say the revolution and the evolution of of the Nigerian economy in itself, hence looking at virtual assets. And in terms of virtual assets, like I said, there are taxes that would be on it. And so this in itself is another thing that we have to take note of. Beyond even the Nigerian Tax Act, even the Finance Act in itself identifies or aligns with itself with virtual assets. So it also has a definition for virtual assets. As such, I think this genuinely just shows that the government is now beginning to change its stance. You know, previously under President Buhari's government, when Godwin Emefiele was the CBN governor, he was vehemently against cryptocurrency. But I think the government now have realized the fact that, look, this is $1 billion market, and this is one in which Nigerians are playing, or Nigerians have a say or have a huge, following in that market, and as such, they are looking for how to make, to make money off that particular market. So I think in itself, those are things that one might have to consider. Like I talked about in terms of stamp duty, so these would affect people that are buying and selling land. You have to take note of it. Buying and selling commercial properties, you have to definitely take note of it, because commercial properties are a way for the government to actually it shows that if you buy, let's say you buy a land for give or take 100 million naira, and it's a commercial piece of land, and you sell it for about give or take 300 or 350 million naira. There are several taxes you have to consider. You have to consider the stamp duty that you have to pay in terms of the documents that is being stamped. You have to also consider the capital gains tax, which would be in terms of the gains that you have made on the capital invested in the land. You likely would also have to consider the value added tax. And so, in terms of even the value added tax, one of the arguments that I've always made is in terms of who you are. You also even have to consider the fact that you're going to be paying professionals. And so, there's likely going to be taxes, or there are likely going to be taxes on that end. So, again, like I've said, like I've advised, if you are a business person, if you are buying or selling land, you likely would need some legal services, some legal advice in terms of what you have to pay and what you might not have to pay. So those are things to consider. And then if you are into the agricultural business or into the business of agriculture, I think the act in itself is quite great in terms of providing certain incentives that you would have to consider, you can look at in terms of being able to go ahead with your business, because Nigeria at the moment is trying to improve its stand in agriculture. And I think that the act definitely does so well to encourage people to be involved and to get more involved in agriculture in itself. And I think the last thing I will talk about before handing over is to talk about value added tax, which is at 7.5%, hasn't changed because of the recent Finance Act. And as such, it is at 7.5%, but then there are still several exceptions. Not everything is subject to value added tax. Things like education, things like religious activities and educational activities, as long as, for example, religious activities, as long as it is not for business purpose. So where a church is being involved in a business, they have to pay tax. But where it is not for business purpose, then they will not be required to actually pay tax. And so the act definitely also goes on to define baby products. It goes on to define basic food amenities, basic food items that people would buy, people would want. And it also goes ahead to give several distinctions in terms of what people need to note that are tax-free in terms of value-added tax and what is not tax-free in terms of value-added tax. So I think for me, yes, there are some questionable aspects of the law in itself, but at the same time, I think that it's still a very interesting piece of legislation.
Okay, thank you so much, Barista. That was a lot. We are still here. We are still together. Thank you so much. I'll just be chipping in one or two things from what he has said and from what I have written down. Yes, like he said, taxes are compulsory levies that every citizen of every country pay. Yes, even developed countries. So, first of all, one of the myths you must clear from your mind is tax by force. Yes, it's compulsory, right? It's your duty as a citizen of a country, except you want to be a citizen of another country. You are free to. But guess what? Guess what? You would still pay taxes when you get to that country that you feel, okay, I want to be a citizen of that country. So one of the things you must get settled in your mind is that taxes are compulsory for every citizen of every country. So you can't do without taxes. You can't not pay. You cannot not pay your tax. So we're not going to be here to tell you to evade tax or plan your tax well, right? But we're going to tell you what you need to know, how to navigate through it. So yes, taxes are important. Okay, why? Why are taxes important? Because the government use, I know some persons already asked in the comment section of how is it going to benefit us? How is it beneficial to me to pay my tax? Yes, taxes are used by, funny enough, taxes are unrequited sometimes, most times, because you can't even say, I want to know exactly this, what the money was used for. So normally, one of the ways government generates funds to do capital projects, to do like the major expenditures they have comes from the taxes, of citizens. This is why in most developing countries, citizens are able to lay hold on, oh, this is taxpayers' money. We have a right to have a say in what you do and what you develop because this is taxpayers' money. The money we pay as taxes are going into the major expenditure that serves as the revenue that the government uses for major projects, right? For example, we have different kinds of projects. For example, TED funds, right? Some of us have been partakers of some sort of bursary from the government, directly or indirectly. Some people have received there, some people have not received. If you are not received, don't worry, you receive. So some of these things are being handled by taxes. And then there's certain infrastructural development, capital, like really, really capital extensive projects that the government does for the good of all, and this is being done from taxes. So yes, taxes are compulsory. You cannot evade it. So this is like the first point of call. So if you think you want to run away from taxes, well, except you don't want to be a law-abiding citizen, except you feel like, okay, whatever. Some persons were saying, and what if I don't go to the bank? What if I don't interact? This is the 21st century, right? This is 21st century. You are not living under a coconut shell. You will interact with people. So even if you don't put your money in bank, somebody will send you money through bank. So but not everybody will pay you through cash, right? And except you're not looking to scale up your business or as a person employed, except you're not willing to grow, or except the company you are working for is not ready to scale up, then you would assume that no. So yes, so just settle your mind as your blood is boiling. Settle your mind that you will have to pay tax. In fact, fun fact, you're already paying taxes indirectly. We have VAT, right? Value added taxes on goods, aside some food items and medicines which are tax free. So yes, if you think you're not already paying tax, you're already paying tax. When you go to restaurants to eat, when you buy certain things, they already have those taxes embedded in the prices, right? And then the value added tax for Nigeria is currently 7.5%, right? It hasn't changed. So in the new tax law, it is still 7.5% VAT, right, on goods. So yes, you're already paying taxes indirectly, right? And then yes, so this is like the basic thing. I'm just going to be building from this point. So tax, you have to pay tax if you are a citizen of it. You are a Nigerian, you have to pay your taxes, right? Yes, and then you're already paying taxes indirectly. So I'll just interpret in a layman's language. Somebody said there are lots of documents like I'll just try as much as possible to build on what Barrister Ayomide has said too. Yes, so yes, you have. Oh, you said
I just want to quickly add something in terms of that
okay, yeah,
not paying
sure.
tax. Yeah, I need to add that if you choose to not pay your tax deliberately, it is a crime. That's called tax evasion. So it's very, very important. It's something you cannot escape. And then I forgot to mention of tax identification number, which everyone needs to have ahead of 2026. So the tax identification number is going to be used to trace how much tax you pay. And it's a requirement. It's going to be a requirement for banks and financial institutions in terms of when you are having to deal with them. If you do not have that, they would likely put a limit on how much you can get or put into your bank. So again, it's very, very important to a tax identification number. You might want to say, what is the use of it? But I think generally, if you look at the world standard, every single developing country or developed country that you look at have a way of being able to identify how people pay their taxes. In the UK, they make use of what is called the NI, and that's what the HMRC can use to check how much taxes you pay. In the US, you also have things like the Social Security or your Social Security number, which they can also use to track how much taxes you pay and how much benefits you can get. So these are very, very, very important things. Essentially, paying your tax is very important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So, like I was saying, so please, if you have questions, you can start dropping your questions because from this point we are going to be also conversational and interactive, right, as we go. Yes. So, about the taxes, someone asked a question, which was also what I'm going to talk about. Yes, so there are different kinds of taxes. I've spoken about the value-added tax, which is on goods. We also have custom duties. We also have what we call personal income tax. Now, this is majorly for business owners, right? Business owners and so personal. Now, about the new tax law is if you are earning annually, now this is annual, right? Not monthly, right? So if your the annual money you have 800,000 naira, so you're tax free. That's like 66,000 naira roughly a month. So it's 0% tax. So you're not going to be taxed. That's like a little bit above the minimum wage, right? Or below the minimum wage, rather. Yes, so it's tax free. So from 800K to 3 million naira, it's going to be 15% taxes. 3 million naira to 12 million naira is like 18%, is 18% rather, not like 80%. 18% tax. 12 million naira to 50 million naira turnover is 23%. And then from 50 million naira upwards is 25% taxes. So for company income tax, the threshold is 25%. So companies that earn below 100 million naira. Now this is quite tricky because people will say, but they said why will companies that are earning less than 250 million not pay taxes that are high? But then we still say 25%. Yes, so we have company income tax, right? For the company, we also have personal income tax, right? Yes, so for company income tax is a different ball game aside the personal income tax. So for company income tax, according to the size of the company and the turnover of the company. So for high capital intensive companies that are from 500 million upwards, theirs is really, really high. So we also have capital gain tax. When you sell a property, those in real estate, right? Those in real estate, you have there's capital gain tax, right? From when you sell, you get profit, you pay taxes from that. And that is also calculated based on some sort of percentage according to how much you sell. So there's no fixed percentage, only the company income tax that looks a bit fixed, that has like a threshold of 25%. For other ones, like pay as you earn, it has like a key that the more you earn, the higher you earn, the more tax you pay. So the more money you make, the more we have questions. We have questions rolling in. So I would be answering some of the questions while I speak to what I have here. So yes, if you are a government property, if you don't know what's government property, I will let you know. If you are a copper, you don't pay tax. You're tax free because you're tax free. Coppers are not pay taxes. And then, like I said, from 0 to 800K are not paying taxes. Students. Now again, if you're a pensioner, pension is tax. There's a tax exemption on pension, right? So what is pension to start with? So pension is little money you keep aside in view of your retirement, right? You start to keep aside certain sum of money. I'll answer the questions are piling up, so I'll answer them. So let me just finish what I have here in my notes, and then we can go into the questions and answer properly. And if I have not touched your question, please draw my attention to it. Right, so pension is like little sum of money you keep, just like you're saving for rainy days. When you retire and you're unable to work, you have a fallback plan. It's more like you're saving for future, for rainy days. So we have these pension administrators, like some of us know, Leadway and the rest that collaborate with banks, and depending on the pension administrator of your company that your company is using or you want to use personally, right? So pension is tax-free, right? So there are also certain government, there are also certain investments that are tax-free, as government bonds and treasury certificates, which are tax-free. Now, when I mean tax-exempt, it means that, what do I mean? Now, how do they calculate tax, right? So your tax is calculated from when you do like a bookkeeping. I'm going to come back to bookkeeping, right? From an accounting purview, right? Your tax is calculated from the total revenue that you've gotten and your profit. So now when you've calculated, there are things that are tax included and things that are tax exempted. Now, tax exempted things are items, or let me put it in layman language, money spent or incurred that are not taxable, right? So they can't be taxed. So there are taxable expenses and non-taxable. So it means that before your tax can be calculated, you have to either deduct that thing or add those things back. For example, depreciation is not tax exempt, so you have to re-add it. So what is tax exempted is the capital gain. That's why you have capital gain for everything you dispose, or every asset you dispose, right? Now, and we're going to come to the capital gain, right? So yes, so this is how the tax, so that's why pension is tax exempt, so it's deducted before the tax is being calculated, right? Yes, so then I'm now going to go to the next part. Yes, government bonds is, and then gift received is not taxed. When you receive a gift, it is not taxed. So I would go into, I'll quickly to how you need to prepare. So I'll talk about how you need to prepare for the tax year. Okay. Yes, so I'm going to answer the questions. Let me round up with that. How you need to prepare. So first of all, as he has said, you need to have a TIN, right? Tax identification number, and I think you can do it online now at NRS, Nigerian Revenue Service, so you can get a TIN if you don't have. So now I advise you, most businesses to get registered with CAC, right? If you can register your business name or register as a firm or you're already. So I advise every sole proprietorship to just have because if you want to scale, see, first of all, when you are trying to do something, look about scalability. You want to scale your business. There are certain things, there are certain clients you cannot get if you are not registered, right? So you have to have your business registered, even as a business name or as a firm, if you want to make it a full-blown firm, or as a partnership. There are different registration outlets, right? It's an NGO. NGO is not taxable because it's a charitable organization, except is a charitable organization, except it's proven otherwise that your NGO is not NGOing. You understand? you are doing things under, right? So yes, so get registered, get a TIN. You can get a TIN. Check Nigeria Revenue Service online, Google it, and see how to get a tax identity number. Right, 18. Yes, and then the next thing is prepare your account, right? Prepare your account. So this is not an accounting class. I would have taken us through how to prepare your books, but I'll just do that in brief. So prepare your account, what your inflows and your outflows, right? If you are a proper business person, you have a company, then you should prepare consolidated statement of accounts, right? You should have your statement of your balance sheet, as we call, statement of financial positions as at the year ended, and then statement of profit and loss and other incomes, right? And then also have a statement of cash flows. A statement of, so now these are statements. Now if you're a full firm, I'm sure you know this already, you have an accountant, you have an account team that will do this, prepare these statements for you. So bookkeeping is very important. Now for small businesses that, okay, I'm trying to find my food, where do I start from? As simple, if you don't know how to use QuickBooks or the advanced online bookkeeping, you can do it with your hand. Like, you can do it yourself to keep record of everything you get in and get out. So as basic as write what you get in, the narration. So you have the date, the particulars. That's what is this money for. So now it's either a single book entry or a double book, right? A double book. So a single book entry, just have the entry. There's no debit and credits, just one single file. So now you have your name, the date, the particulars. Now particulars is description of what that money is for, right? Debit side is for inflows. That's by your right hand side, right? By your left hand side. While the credit side is for outflows, right? So you have the date, the particulars, and then you have the amount. So that's like a basic book. Then you put like a double line in between for the other side to name, particulars, amount. And then you can also go as far as, like, if you are trying to keep a proper account. So each account, if it's a personal account, should have the person's name. You can also open another account for the person. It's just a book and borrow, a T version, right? So, but then if you want a more structured bookkeeping system, you can look up online. There are formats that are easily adoptable, right? So document. That's why it's even good to also label. Every transaction should be properly labeled, right? Now, on that thing again is that transactions are not only, one of the essence of bookkeeping is that you don't just deal with, as a business person, you agree with me that you don't just deal with bank transactions, you also have cash transactions, right? So that's going to, because there's also what we call bank reconciliation statement. This is all accounting. Maybe to say jargons, but then I'll still say, right? So we have bank reconciliation. So you have to reconcile what you have cash at hand and the cash at bank. Right, so this is very, very important. That's why you need to have a record keeping. So bookkeeping is very important, because when your bank statement comes and your cash, or you can be able to marry them together, and then you now have adjusted. Now it's not going to be the normal, not going to be your normal cash book. You now have adjusted cash book, because the cash book is now taking cognizance of your bank transactions and not just your cash transactions, right? So yes, so it's very, very important you have to organize organize. So we're going to have another session on planning, financial planning, and all that subsequently. Remember, this is Navigate Your Life class, and we are here to give you all this knowledge that you need to navigate through life as you navigate through life. Yes, so you need to have this at the back of your mind, that you need to organize. Now you will say, oh, I'm just a student, I'm just this. Even if you're a student, it's very, very essential you bookkeep and budget, because you're able to plan your finances, right? I know you're not paying taxes yet, but when you start to pay tax, and some students are earning big money, they're already working. So if you're a student and you're earning 5 million or 25, you pay tax, right? You pay because you are recognized, you are a staff, you are working for someone, you receive money for a job that you did, and that is identified as a profit gain. So that will be taxable, regardless of whether you have a matric number or not, right? So in a nutshell, what I've just tried to explain in the past 10 minutes is that you need to have organize your books. What I mean by books is your inflows and your outflows, as basic as that, right? So if you cannot do, you can use an online app. You can use a pen and a paper to do that. You can have a structured bookkeeping system, or you can employ the service of an accountant. If you have a firm, you can employ the service of an accountant, and the accountant will show you and guide you how to bookkeep, right? Yes. So after that, I would go next to my yes, take cognizance of all expenses that you make. All expenses, you also have to take cognizance of your expenses. Like I said, there are certain things that are not tax deductible, and the things that are tax deductible. So even if you spend something, you can, when your tax is going to be calculated, it's going to be added, right? So there's what we call people that have firms, they know that you have to file, your annual returns with CAC, right? You file it. So when you're doing that filing too, your taxes too is going to be taken note of. So these are very, very important. So I'll just stop here, right? And then I'm going to take questions. So if you really need explanation on certain things that we have said, on the percentages, on what to do, you can still draw our attention to it. Okay, so I'll go to the questions, right? So from the first question is, how much percentage is everyone supposed to pay, since we don't all earn the same thing? I think I've answered this, like I said. Now for companies, right? Okay, and again, there's something I missed out, right? As a business person, right, a sole proprietorship, right? If possible, if you can, have a different account that is registered for your business and your own personal account. Separate the account, right? Even though yes, proprietorship, the account, you cannot in real sense, the account, you don't have a dual entity, right? Business is not different from the owner, but then in order to streamline your business operations, right, you can, have this is my personal account, this is my business account, and it's not so difficult to do, right? Go to the bank, and then that's why you should have your business name registered. So this is another. Have you registered? If you want to hit big clients, trust me, if you don't want to play local, you don't want to play small, register your business. It's going to, yes, short term, it might look like an expense, but in the long run, you'll be glad. It's an investment, you'll be glad you did, because you have protected that name. Nobody can use that name anymore, right? Nobody can open Elizabeth Business Limited, because Elizabeth Business Limited is already existing. That's another beautiful thing. No one can steal your name, your business name, right? And then again, you can do transaction with bigger folks. You can scale up your business. We're talking about tax. This is 10%, 15%, 20%. Think about you making millions of naira. Don't focus on that alone, how much I'm going to pay. Think about, also, what am I going to get? I'm trying to scale up my business. I'm a citizen. Tax is compulsory for me. There's no explanation anymore that we can say about that, right? So yes, as a sole proprietorship, ensure you have a different account for your business. That's going to help. So to answer that question, Barrister, I'm going to answer some questions and then leave some questions for you to answer. How much percentage? So like I've explained, we have capital income, company income tax, right, which is tax to a company depending on the size of that company. Now, for you as a person, as a business owner, like I said, from 0 to 800K is free. Now, annually, right? I don't say you make 800K a month. You make 800K a month, that's roughly like almost 10 million naira, 10 point something. It means that you're paying taxes, 18% tax, right? Annual tax of 18%. So we are not all paying the same thing. We are paying according to our strength, according to our income and how we earn, right? So everybody's not paying the same thing. Like I said, for personal income tax, 0 to 800K is tax free, 0% tax, no tax on that. 800K to 3 million naira is 15% taxes. 3 million naira to 12 million naira is 18% tax. There's a percentage on the tax. Now, on the profit, right? People will ask, okay, is it customer money? What if customer give me 300 million that I want to buy? No, they don't tax. The government do not tax your goods. Government tax, yes, Barrister, I'm correct, tax your profit, right? And what you gain, right, in the business. That's what is being taxed, right? And then 12 million to 50 million, 23% is the tax rate. Then 50 million above is 25%, which is the threshold, like the threshold for taxes, right? Yes, there are certain countries that they pay higher tax than that, even 30%. Here in Italy, like 30%, people pay as high as 30% taxes. So don't start to complain. When they have to complain that they want to collect our money, you go and look at other countries. I know people come and ask me now that, what is the country doing with my money? We'll come there, we'll come to that, right? Okay, yes. So I'll go to the next question. I think I've answered the percentage question. Like cryptocurrency is decentralized, so where would the tax come from? So even though crypto is decentralized, it has a source. It has where it's coming from and it has where it's going to, right? It has a source. So that something is leaving my wallet address and going to. So it has a source and it has where it's going to. So that's one of the way it can be traced, right? Now, crypto being decentralized, meaning there's no centralized system to say, okay, well, this is the bank of crypto, let's block it. So it's like how the blockchain industry works, right? So cryptocurrency, so long as it has a source, it has a transaction, it has a source, transaction details, it can be taxed, right? It has a transaction. And funny enough, most people end up converting crypto. Most banks, earlier, Barrister said that there was a huge resistance to crypto and the rest by the late Muhammadu Buhari's regime. I think Zenith Bank was the first bank that was trying to embrace it, and there was lots of outlash. But now we know that cryptocurrency is here to stay. Like, there are transactions, billions of transactions going around the world in USDT, in Bitcoin, in lots of coins that are moving P2P, right, peer to peer. So there are lots of transactions going on already in crypto, and yes, it can be, right? It can be, it can be taxed. So I'll go to the next question, and then I would let Barrister answer. How do one go about getting the tax ID? So, sir, you can please answer that. How does one get the TIN number?
The tax ID, I think you've answered that already.
Yes, I think
you
answered that.
made mention of it already in terms of, yes. I think the next question is, if taxes are compulsory for citizens of a country, does that mean immigrants or tourists are exempt from the act? Actually, no. So people, even foreigners that are residents in Nigeria, foreigners that are working in Nigeria, would also have to pay their tax. So there's a way the act was written in such a way that it defines what is called residence. So if you are resident in Nigeria, which means you are a foreigner, you're a foreigner, you're an expatriate in quotes, working in Nigeria for a certain period of time, you will be subjected to taxes. Also, one of the brilliant things in quotes that the act has also done is, because of businesses have this thing whereby they have like a Nigerian registered entity, and then they have an entity registered in the US, for example, in Delaware, and then they do this thing whereby they try to not pay as much tax here, and because of the fact that in terms of how the tax also works in Delaware, they try to do some level of rigmaroling. The act also identifies that fact, which is that where Nigeria is your main place of doing business, you will still have to pay taxes in Nigeria, regardless of the fact that your headquarters is in another country. And so Nigeria they also took into cognizance the fact of trying to look into reciprocity in terms of the countries that the businesses are also registered in, where it is not in Nigeria. So these percentages, next question, these percentages, are they paid annually or split throughout the year? I think a lot of it depends on the transaction that is being done, and also depends on the level of the business, the employment. For example, if you're an employee, like Elizabeth has identified in terms of how the taxes would be if you're earning under 800,000 naira, the fact you wouldn't have to pay anything if you're earning within a certain amount, there are certain percentages that you would have to pay. Similar to capital gains tax, when you buy and sell land, you are making some capital on it, so you have to pay taxes on that capital on that particular transaction. Then again, it could also behove on you if you want to reach an agreement, depending on the level of arrangements that you want to make with the NRS in this case, or maybe the LIRS, in terms of how you want to pay your taxes with them. It could be per transaction, and then it could be at the end of the year when you collate your books, and then you're like, this is how much we're supposed to pay as our tax, and you declare it at the end of the tax year. So there's that. For persons who don't own businesses, will taxes be automatically deducted, or we have to pay them ourselves? That's a very interesting question. I think, again, it will depend on the nature of the transaction. If you don't own a business, but if you're an employee, it will behove on your employer to be able to put in place certain systems to ensure that your taxes get paid. And yourself as an employee should also take into account the fact that are your taxes actually being paid. So those are things that you have to look at per transaction. And then you can also, there might be a situation where you would have to pay yourself. And this is where the narration for every transaction you make comes into account. Like I noted, the NRS can or will be able to look at your account, look at your books where you have not paid your tax, and they will make assumptions. So in that kind of situation, you must and should be able to pay your tax by yourself. And so the tax is yearly. So if I get 100 million per year, I get a one-time tax payment on that 100 million. For example, if I cross the 800K, will I pay tax on every income I get after that? Like I noted, I think a lot of it is dependent on how often the transactions get done, and if you're a business or an individual. But you also have to take into account the financial tax year, know when it ends and when it begins, so that your calculation starts reading from the beginning of the financial tax year to the end of the financial tax year. If you want to do a one-time payment, that is something that you have to take note of. For the capital income tax, do you pay tax regardless of the profit you make? I think that is capital gains tax. So you would have to declare or pay a certain percentage of the profits that you make off real estate sales. So you always have to take note of that fact. You would have to, especially where it is for a commercial purpose or a commercial land. I reckon that there might be exemptions for residential, but that also depends on the nature, again, very important, on the nature of the transaction. I think Elizabeth can take it. What is an example of untaxable expenses?
Okay, yes. So one of the untaxable expenses is that, okay, I think one practical tip as employee that you can do is that check your pay slip, right? You see that there is gross income. Just practically, just bring out your pay slip. For those of us that do get pay slip, if you have your pay slip as an employee, check your pay slip. You will see gross income, and then you see other deductibles, and then you now see your net income, which is now your take home. Now under it, you're going to see tax. If there's no tax there, go and ask your account officer, oh, am I paying tax? How much tax are we paying? What is the implication for us as a business? Because sometimes you might not know what exactly your company is, and so you can ask questions. What is the strength of this company, so that we know how much taxes they are paying, and what's the implication for us as employees? What are we paying? Even though, yes, our taxes is based on how much we earn, so we know if, okay, there's a possible change or adjustment. So if you've been paying your tax, now for employees, your taxes are being paid monthly by the account officer. You have an account unit, so they gather everything and they remit it, right? So at the end of the year, when you prepare your bank statement and every other, when you prepare the consolidated financial statements, when it's now time to do to file your annual returns, right? So all the tax that you have paid, right? If there's any pending taxes, they'll pay. They'll deduct those ones that you've remitted already. This is how it works. So those ones you've remitted already will be deducted. So it will not count. It's not taxable because you already paid it already, right? Now, how it works, this is a system. Now, how do they know if I'm paying a tax or not? We have tax administrators, right, which is the FIRS, and every state has a state board for the for the revenue services and also for tax. Every state have a state board, and every company that is doing something, every company registered under CAC also have they file their annual returns, and from that annual returns it's going to be checked if they pay tax or not, right? Now, those of us saying that, oh, our bank account, the reason why the bank account will be checked, for example, 5 million naira, 5 million naira, so nobody's going to deduct money from your account, right? As Barrister has explained, right? But to check, okay, also to see if it corresponds with what you are saying, right? So your bank statement cannot lie. The bank cannot lie on behalf of their clients, and this is not the actual amount when it's up and plain there. So check your pay slip. You'll see if your taxes are being paid or not, right? And feel free to ask questions, ask your account officer questions, right? Where you work, ask, oh, this tax something, how does it affect our company? I know I'm earning this is this thing. Is there going to be changes? Will there be higher tax? Will I have less take home? This is practical, right? And then also for the NRS, check the website online how to get a TIN. You can Google it online on Google. You see their website, Nigeria Revenue Service, get your TIN number. And then if you have an NIN, I think it is easier when you have an NIN and not BVN, you can easily get a TIN number. Or if not, check the nearest address, their nearest office that is close to your location. Check the nearest office and then go there and get your TIN. Right, so you can either go walk up to any NRS, either a tax office, or you walk up to any NRS outlet and then do your TIN, or you check online and do it online. So do we have any more question? Okay, so you don't have to go to the bank. I said, do we have to go to the bank to pay the taxes? Do we have to go to, for businesses, do we have to go to bank to pay tax? I think they have, we have, the government is also going to implement a stronger administrator, more like tax police, that will ensure that every business, be able to pay their tax, especially for those earning above 800K annually. Yes, so nobody's going to deduct your money for you, but you're going to pay the tax from your income at the end of your annual year or monthly as you would want to pay it. So when you have a tax identity number, you can easily pay your taxes. You remit the tax, right? You do it yourself. Or if you have an account officer, the account officer will do it for you. If you're a personal business owner, you can, it's a very, very simple process. Once you have the application uploaded or the website, you can send in your bank statement or the balance, and then send with the narration of this is the tax income. Then at the end of the year, right, you're able to see that, okay, this actually corresponds with, or maybe I've paid in 1 year, I have paid 800K or 300,000 naira as tax. This is what I paid for 1 year. But then after I did my financial statement, I realized that, oh, the tax that I was supposed to pay was 850,000 naira, right? So what you're just going to pay back is the 50,000 naira, not another extra money, 250,000 naira, sorry. So what you're going to pay is 50,000 naira, right? Not this thing. It's just like the way you remit, money, like you want to send money, just like the way you remit pension, the way pension is remitted, that's the same way tax is being remitted. But this time around, it's going to be stricter because there's going to be like regulations, right, on the money they are supposed to pay. So the next question is, how can the taxable gain be determined by government? Is there a system to know gain and customer money that just came in? That's why the narration is very, very important. The narration is very, very important. Every transaction should have every transaction should have a narration. So Barrister, you can take it up from here.
Okay, I think there was a question that I saw somewhere. Someone asked, is there any advantage taxing? There are lots of advantages to taxes. In terms of how much the revenue the government makes is what they're able to put in place to provide social amenities. The taxes go into education in terms of providing education for You have government schools in terms of the buildings, the structure, being able to replace broken windows and every other thing. That your taxes go there. In terms of the roads, that is where your taxes go into. In terms of providing adequate security, that is where your taxes go into. In terms of ensuring the civil service works according or should in terms of how the civil service should work, that is where your taxes also go into. In terms of what's it called? How do I call it now? Like hospital services, that is where your taxes go to. So there are several advantages of paying your tax. It is very, very important. It's a responsibility, a duty as a Nigerian to actually pay your tax. Other questions. What if your business what if your business, for instance, a small business you run as a student isn't registered? How is that tax being paid? First of all, if you're a student or you're not a student, it is very, very important for you to register your business as soon as possible. It will soon be against the law if you are running a business or a business name that is not registered. So I think the very first thing that you need to do as a student, or if you are not a student and you are running a business, a small business or a large business, you need to register your business as soon as possible. What is the financial tax year, please? So financial tax year is basically the period whereby your taxes start reading. So it's a year, usually a span of about 12 months, wherein your taxes, how much you make, how much you make, the income that you make or generate within that period of a year is calculated. So they do not calculate anything outside that 12 months. And that is how most times, in most cases, the taxes are determined. So it's just a period of a year whereby the income the income or the gains that you make are being calculated. The taxable income that you make are being calculated, and then you have to pay most times at the end of that financial year. Is it possible to decide when I pay my tax if I prefer to pay monthly, for example? I mean, if you are a salary earner, you likely would be paying your taxes every month,
Monthly.
if I'm not wrong. So
Yes.
that is something that you also have to take into account. So again, it depends on the level of income that you make and the type of business as well that you are into. Is the tax on every amount I receive as a free, is the tax on every amount I receive as a freelancer after I have crossed the 800k threshold? Mm, I mean, there is a possibility if you cross the 800k threshold, then you are past the 0% in terms of not being able to pay taxes. So you likely would be paying your tax. But as a freelancer, I reckon that you are possibly not an employee. As such, there might be a possibility wherein I'm not sure. Elizabeth, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
You're right on track.
Would Yeah, so you might
No,
have
the,
to
the thing is that
consider.
yes,
Yeah.
if you are working for a sorry to chip in, if you are working for a US firm, now one of the rules of paying taxes, why tourists don't pay taxes, that to relieve double taxing is if you stay in Nigeria for more than 183 days, you are to pay tax, right? So you are living staying in Nigeria, right? So even if you are working for a remote company, right, but you're in Nigeria, you pay taxes, right? So taxes are calculated at source or at residency, at where you get the money from or at residency, right? And for Nigeria, one of the way tax is calculated is residency, right? Where you're resident. And for those that are in diaspora, right, they also have that. If you're in diaspora, you have a business in Nigeria, and you have people running a business for you, you pay taxes, right? So yes, the taxes are being calculated in different form. One of the forms of taxes being calculated is if you're a resident in Nigeria for more than 183 days, you pay your taxes to the Nigerian government, right? So, but then if your company has paid taxes for you, maybe the company already has paid the tax on their own end, right? This is it. So now you have to yeah, we're living in Nigeria. You have to tell your company, I'm living in Nigeria. This is Nigerian own tax laws, right? You cannot deduct tax. So you and your company now come to an agreement to, okay, they send your money complete without deducting the tax amount while you remit the tax and show them proof of payment that the tax has been paid, right? Yes. So, and then somebody also asked a question to prevent double taxing and company income tax and also pay tax. So it's two different things. Company income tax is Now, when your salary is being taxed, you're not paying anything again. The only thing that you are also paying as tax is the VAT when you buy or consume goods, right? So double taxing is not a thing. Now, this system is even here to even prevent double taxing, right? Company income tax the company as a whole, as an individual, right? While your own pay as you earn, right, affects you as a person. So it's not in any way being double taxed, right? Okay, so that we don't get it mixed up. It's not double taxing, right? So your payee is your salary, and your salary is a fraction of your company's earnings, like a very, very minute fraction of your company's earnings. So it's not being double taxed. Now, companies as an entity, a company in the eyes of the law is an entity, right? You as a person, you're an entity. So a company that is registered that has a name is an entity in the eyes of the law, and that company pays tax, right? Now, if you see a typical, I really was a typical how a typical tax has been paid, then you will now see that when taxes are to be paid, they will deduct other taxes that have been paid. And if there's a balance remaining to pay up, that's why the taxable expenses, for example, depreciation is not tax exclusive. So it's going to be re-added, right? Because you have capital gain. Because when you make a loss, they pay you for that, right? So it's being added back to get how much is your taxable income for the year. Now, when your taxable income for the year has been written, then how much taxes has been paid so far in that fiscal year? So if you've paid only 50%, then you have to remit back that 50% that is left to be able to continue your operation. Else, you have penalty if you don't pay up in a specific period of time. And then you as a business person, you have a going concern as a business. Going concern is that you still want to be in business for the next 5, 10, 20 years. So you have to meet up and pay. And this is like 25%, 20%, 18%, depending on how much your company earns in total. So I don't know if I've answered that question. So can we get our TIN at the bank? I think we've answered this TIN number
about twice or thrice.
Right? We've answered it like 3 times now. Yes, we answered it that. So what I think one of the confusion is people are saying that yes, because banks will now require you to have your TIN number, right? Most banks will now require you as at January that is going to be, if it's going to be fully implemented, right? As at January, right? You're going to have, it's going to be a requirement, just like you have BVN, your NIN, you're going to also have tax identity number, right? So if the earlier you do it, the better. Like we said, if you want to do the TIN number, you can check online, check NRS portal and get your TIN, or walk up to any of their outlets and get your TIN number. Just the way you do your driver's license, right? Your driver's license, you can also get your TIN, your TIN number, just so you do your driver's license number. So I think we've flogged that. We've overflogged that. So is there any other question? Okay. As an employee getting a TIN and giving it to my account officer, does it prevent me from paying the personal income tax, or after my company pays the tax? No, you're not being double taxed. The tax that you are paying already. So your income, if you check your pay slip, if you can, just take your pay slip, carry your pay slip, especially for those in the civil service, you have like a pay slip that is very, very robust. Take your pay slip, you see gross amount, your gross salary, right? Then you see other deductibles. Now, if your company is paying accommodation for you to deduct a percentage, if they are paying any other things for you, and if you are paying pension, most companies, they pay their pension for their employees, right? They are paying pension. You will see these deductibles. Then you now see your net salary, right? Your net take home. You will see basic, you will see transport allowance. I don't know if your company gives you transport allowance, this is how it looks basically. You see your gross amount, you see the basic amount, you see housing allowances, you see transport allowances, you see accommodation allowances, you see every other. Some people, for example, those that work in banks, some banks even give them dressing allowances, right, to be able to buy certain dresses. Now you now come and see the deductibles. You will see deductibles, you see pension. If you are paying pension, you see your pension is being deducted. If you are definitely paying tax, you see it's payee. They call it payee, pay as you earn, right? It's being deducted. And any other deductible that you have as an agreement with the company that is there, maybe you took a loan and you're trying to pay up, it's going to be there. At the end of the day, you would have what we call net net income. That's your net pay, right? So the gross pay is what you are actually earning before every other thing is deducted. Then the net is after everything plus tax has been deducted. That's what you now have as your take home, right? So your company might be paying you, might say, okay, your basic salary is 100,000, transport allowance 20,000. This, at the end of the day, what you have as a gross amount is like 400k. Then if you deduct pension and tax, you might end up collecting 250k or 285k, right? So, and like I said, pension is you're paying small until when you cannot work, right? They're helping you hustle. And the taxes too, like I said, taxes you are giving to the government to do capital expenditures, to help the government, part of the budgeting, part of the budget money, taxpayers' money, and what they use to even do the budget, right? To do most of the projects that they have on the budget. So taxpayers' money is what they use. So yes, so this is what it looks like practically, right? This is what it looks like. So check your pay slip and check if you are paying, you are paying your taxes already. For example, so there's another question. So I don't know if that answers that question. Please let me know if that is clear. If I earn 1 million annually, what will be taxed is 200%, 200,000, not the entire 1 million. Please, is this accurate? So if you earn 1 million annually, it means that every month you earn a little bit above 100,000 naira, if I'm correct, right? And then if you are on 1 million K, that's like 15%. You earn a little bit above 100k. No, a little bit above 80,000 or 85,000 naira. I'm going to do the maths here. I'm sure some of us already have our paper and books and writing, right? So now the thing is about, you said?
It's about 90 something thousand a month.
A month, right? So now you're not the one to decide, because like I said, remember what I mentioned though, there are things that are taxable and things that are not taxable, right? This is like a crash, how do we call it, a crash seminar, right? We are going to subsequently have something subsequently on Navigate Your Life, so we won't be able to expound everything with the limited time that we have, but as much as we can we will do, right? So if you have, practically, if you earn 1 million naira annually, what will be taxed is 200,000, not the 1 million naira. Is this accurate? No. What will be taxed? No. What will be taxed is 200k, not the entire 1 million. If you earn 1 million naira annually, your tax is going to come from what you've earned. That's why if you are an employee, right? Now, if you are a business owner, now remember, even you working for somebody, right? That person has the responsibility to ensure that to keep the business going, they pay the taxes, right? So if you are now the business owner and now the owner of the business, to keep your business going, you want to scale up, you want to keep your business running, you have to also pay your taxes, right? And taxes are on profit made, right? Revenue gained, right? So even if you make capital losses, now capital gain is also going to help you to recoup. The government is also going to pay you. If you sell off an asset and you make a loss, they're going to pay you for that asset that you lost because you have been paying taxes on that asset, right? That is for the capital gain tax. So capital gain tax also help you when you sell off an asset and you make a loss, they pay you a percentage on that asset that you've lost. That's why depreciation is not tax deductible, right? You have to add it back to the expenses, right? So I don't know if that answers the question. If that answer. So the thing is that you don't get to decide. So gifts are not taxable, right? So if it's a gift and is well tagged as this is a gift, right, it is not taxable. Now most people want to evade tax by tagging everything as a gift. Now the downside of it is that you are a business person, right? I am want to transact with you and I have to narrate my book of account that I paid this thing for cement. I paid 3 million naira for this. I cannot say I give you as a gift because it's also going to reflect in my own book. Now, because it's a bookkeeping double entry. So if you want to say, okay, my customer should write gift, your customer too maybe has a company that is going to keep books. So it's going to still affect both ways because I can't record that I bought something, right, for my firm. We bought shares, I want to account for it and I send it to you and I wrote narration gift. No, it cannot work, right? It won't work that way. That is why there's going to be a close monitoring with banks, right? The tax police, right? So will a freelancer pay tax monthly as well? I think we've explained this. We've
Yeah.
explained this part about it. Do we have more questions? Do we have more questions on the tax? I don't know if we do justice to it or we have more. Again, so while we wait for questions, people are saying that yes, in most developed countries, the government uses the tax money to do infrastructures. What about us? We have not seen anything that they have done to to warrant being taxed, right? So, like we
The question
said,
I
tax is unrequited, right? It's now based on the citizens to lay claim. We are taxpayers and we need to see our taxes being put into good use, right? So you are not a taxpayer, you can't even start. Some people have not even paid taxes before in their life and they are having this loud outcry. Yeah, so taxpayers have a right to call the government or that, oh, we are paying taxes, we are the infrastructures, we are doing this. And mind you, taxes are put into different use, education, social infrastructures, health-wise, like Barrister mentioned. So there are different ways it is being put into use, right? So the government use it, that's the way government generates their revenue, their own income to build the society and the country at large. So the government use your money, your tax, to build for the betterment of ourselves and for the people, right? When you see that there's nothing that they're doing with the money, then you call out, oh, we're paying taxes, we are taxpayers. Taxpayers can sign up to pay tax, right? Okay, we want to see, okay, what has it? That's why the government also brings budgets. They give budgets, you see the deficit or surplus at the end of the day, they show you these are what this and this. So if you really want to know what the money is used for, go check, go online and research, the government also publishes their own accounts. Yes, they publish their account at the end of the year, they publish it. You see what they make, you see it. Check on the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, NBS. You can see on the NBS, you even see the raw materials, our economic resources, the resources, how the GDP is looking like, and also you also see the government, what they spend, the budgeting and all. They even used to have like meetings where they discuss, okay, this is what we have spent so far, this is the project that we achieved. So these are all online. If you don't search for it, you don't know that these informations are available. It is available. Even when a budget is wants to be passed, you have a right to this thing, are we running on surplus every year? We are running on a surplus budget, a deficit budget, right? Why is it so? This is what you should also know as a citizen of a country, right? You have access to this information. So please do well to also check these things, Google it. You can check NBS, Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. You can also check on, and there's a platform where they publish the account. You can also FIRS also publishes their statement showing the total amount of money they receive. You can check on the FIRS platform. Also check Nigerian Revenue Services. You would see what they have actually recorded, and also they also publish it with some newspapers. So those of us that don't know that read newspapers, they publish it with some newspapers and you can get access to it, right? You go online and then you check it out and see it. So do we have any more questions while we keep conversing? So it's unrequited, like I said. It's not you must do, because sometimes you don't do. That's the sad truth, right? That's the sad truth, right? So but then you have to pay. So do we have any more questions, please? Do we have anything we're not clear on? Are we clear? Someone just asked a question. Okay, so like I explained, right? Like I explained, if you have that app, the NIRS portal, you can actually pay now as a company that is registered. In fact, one of the ways you keep your company being registered is that you file annual returns, right? This is what we need for the year. So if you're a business owner, you've not filed annual return, you've never filed, then I think your business name or your real registration might have been cancelled long ago, because even CAC has built in a penalty for those that do not file their annual returns on time, right? So yes, as a business or as a firm, right? As a business, as a firm, right? You have that is registered under CAC, right? Corporate Affairs Commission. You have to do what we call annual return filing. Now, it's from that annual return filing. Now, before you can even file correctly, you must show that you are paying taxes, right? Yes, before you can file correctly. Has anybody working? You might not know because you're probably an employee. So when they come to check your books, you probably are not aware. It's your account officers that will probably be in the heat of these things, right? To know that okay, this will we pay this tax and this is the notice that has been sent. Because now FIRS, right, and also the state board, they have a record. They have a record of every operational business and company that should remit taxes, right? They also have a record of, like he mentioned, the Afrobeats people. They are seeing everything. They are watching and they are observing, right? So if you don't pay your taxes, they lock up your business, they close your business, they seal it with that seal. You can't operate because you have pending taxes that you have not paid, right? So for business owners, when you have it now, the tax identity number is the number that is unique to your business, that you can be not just that is not just identifiable to your business, that you can also use to pay your taxes, right? That's the thing. Now, at the end of every year, you have a TIN certificate showing that you paid your taxes, and you can also request for it. They will give you show the taxes that you've paid so far, right? And this is the amount you paid, and the certificate to show that you're a taxpayer. Yes, you can request for it from NRS, and they are going to issue it to you, right? They are going to issue the certificate to you. So, Nigerians has okay. There's a question. Nigerians have a lot of trust issues with their government. Is there a direct benefit for businesses that pay taxes, e.g., taking loans? Now, I don't know, Barrister. I don't answer that. Or I go ahead.
There are certain incentives. If you go through the act, like I made mention of, if you are into agriculture, there are certain incentives that you would be able to enjoy. You will be able to enjoy. If you're into oil and gas or petroleum, there are also incentives that you'll be able to enjoy. You'll be, pardon me, you'll be able to enjoy. If you're into, so it all just depends on the industry that your business is in, and then you would then be able to leverage on the incentives that are made available in the business that you're working in. With regards to taking loans, I wouldn't say that would necessarily be directly from the government. Possibly it's something they might be looking at in terms of schemes that they can use to help people build their businesses. That is a possibility. You never can tell because they might decide to create a scheme wherein you have to, show record of your taxes over time. And I think, if I'm not wrong, if you are also doing business with the government, it's also one of the few things that they might
Yeah.
require for you to show that, okay, you are actually paying your tax. So this is very, very important in terms of what you have to do and in terms of whether or not there are direct benefits. If you're doing business with the government, you would have to show proof that you have been paying your taxes. And then there are also certain incentives, tax incentives, and also business wise or industry related incentives that you can leverage on or explore as a business in Nigeria. So, yes, there are certain direct benefits for businesses.
Yes, and to also add to that, when you dispose of your asset and your asset has a loss for the capital gain tax, the government actually pays you when you dispose your assets and you run on a loss disposal, right? Loss on disposal, they pay for that, right? Because you are now making a loss, so they're trying like a tax relief on disposal of assets, right? For companies, that's why you pay capital gain tax because at the end of the day, when you get a loss on disposal, they pay you a certain percentage on disposal. And again, as to add to what Barrister has said, there are also certain businesses, certain offers you cannot do if you don't pay your taxes. Like he said, government tenders, people that do contractors that do business. If you don't pay taxes, you can't get a tender, you can't get a project, any project you can't get. And for those that probably want to travel outside the country and want to do one or two things, transactions, you'll be asked your pay slip to show your pay slip or the tax identification number or the tax certificate rather to show that you actually pay tax. Because one of the ways to know that you're a citizen of a place and you're really like a bona fide is that you pay your taxes. It's one of the attributes, right? So with your taxes, I pay taxes. You have it gives you an edge, right, when you want to do certain transactions, right? And then you're also contributing to the good of the country at large, right? And taxpayers have a say. So the next question is penalties of not paying taxes, both for companies and individual. Like I said, for companies, I don't know if you've been listening to the news. There's some certain companies that will be closed down, that were closed down because they have accrued years of taxes. Now, the reason why there's an outcry is because the reason why there's an outcry of the taxing system has always been there. Companies have always been paying taxes. The reason why there's an outcry is because the new tax law has certain changes, right? This is why it's now everybody's now so it's not as though Nigerians have not been paying taxes before, or Nigerians did not have a taxing system. No, we have a taxing system long before now. Only that now there's a broader publicity and a searchlight because the tax administrators are going to be more strict to ensure that people don't evade taxes. They don't do tax evasion. This is why it looks like it's a serious topic, right? The topic of discussion, because they are going to be strict about it to ensure that nobody evades tax. So it's not as though they've not been taxed; they've always been taxed, right? Yes. So the penalty is that the businesses will be closed down and you can't transact. The businesses will be locked down, right? It will be, in fact, you see there's this slip, you see the they will come and tie it and put the banner that, and you can't operate, right? You can't until you pay those tax. And the more you delay, the more you pay fine of delaying. Just like when you want to file tax return, the more you delay, the more you pay the fine. So if you don't pay when you're supposed to pay, you pay the taxes and also pay the fine for not paying the taxes as at when you should do at the end of that financial year. So if you've not paid your tax for 3 years, you pay all those 3 years and plus the fine that will be administrated based on the law. Because even the FIRS have a constitution, they have a law, an act that guides them on what to do. So they have percentage on how much they will charge for not paying taxes for. So if you've not paid tax for 10 years, they will charge it, right? Because they'll have your books of account and then they charge to it. Like I said, except you don't want to upscale. So penalties is that you can't operate, and the more it accrues, the more you pay more fine. And as a business person, you cannot, as an individual, you cannot do business in isolation. So if you really want to transact well and have like a goodwill, you have a goodwill to transact both foreign, international, supranational, and within companies in Nigeria. Except you want to play small, you want to just be a local champion, collecting only cash. That's where you'll be. But if you really want to scale up, you have to pay your taxes to prevent fine and prevent any hitches that has to come in. Remember, this is a percentage of your income, your profit. Yes. So I think we've answered. I don't know if there's any pending question that we have.
If I may add, sorry. Can I go on?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so with regards to penalties, I like I've noted previously, tax evasion is a crime. So I think it's very important, especially if you word it as penalties of not paying taxes, that is pretty much a crime in itself and would be accrued to be tax evasion. And there are also anybody found liable would likely be susceptible to being in prison for a certain amount or period of time, or will be susceptible to paying fines, like Elizabeth has mentioned. So you have to note that there are also criminal punitive measures in place for deliberately choosing to not pay your tax. You would ask that, is that not too much? The answer would be no, because like we have noted, in developed countries, these are what they actually put in place. They have the prosecution can choose to go either criminal or civil in terms of being able to put the person in jail for evading taxes, or they reach an agreement and the person has to pay taxes. If you want some examples, there are several, especially in Spain. It's more recurrent in sports, wherein athletes decide to create offshore accounts so that they will not pay certain taxes, maybe with regards to their human rights. But one of the countries that is very, very brutal when it comes to getting their money with regards to tax is Spain. And regardless of how long it will take them, they will sue and then they will, most times the court will either give a suspended sentence or the parties will reach an agreement. And there have been several examples to this end. Xabi Alonso, Carlo Ancelotti, and so there are several examples to this end wherein there is either a suspended prison sentence or the parties reach an agreement or a fine is being placed on that person. So there are a range of penalties for not paying your taxes.
Okay, thank you so much, Barrister, for that. Thank you so much. So, if we don't have any more questions, we'll start to round up at this end. If you've not gotten anything, if you didn't get anything today, one of the things you should get is number one, if you are an employee, check your pay slips and check if your company is actually paying your taxes. Check your pay slip, right? Your fiscal pay slip or the e-pay slip, check it. But two, you're a business owner that is registered, check your, go get a TIN number if you don't have a TIN. Get a tax identification number. You are a worker, you are doing a sole proprietorship business, go get a TIN number, a tax identity number, because the tax administrators will be strict in getting the taxes, right? So, and then also organizing your books of account. If you are a sole proprietorship, organize your, so we have, yes, organize your books of accounts in a nutshell. And in a nutshell, what we have said is that not everyone is taxable. Now, not everyone is taxable. People that earn from 0 to 800,000 naira annually are tax-free, right? NYC government parties, they are tax-free, they don't pay taxes. And then taxes are paid according to your strength, right? According to how much you earn. We have KIDAS. I'm just giving a rundown of everything we've said, we've been saying here, just in case you came late. We have a rundown KIDAS of the taxes, right? So how do you navigate through this thing? You are a worker, you're an employee. Like I said again, check your pay slip, and if your taxes are being paid, and what are the implications? How much do you earn? So you can see that, right? You're a business owner, you already have a TIN, ensure you pay your taxes as at when due. Now, if you don't have a TIN number, go get a TIN number. When you go to get the TIN number or you do the TIN number online, you will see how to pay. There's usually an account to send the money to, and they give you a certificate that you've paid the tax for that year or for that month. They do that. They issue you either a receipt or a certificate at the end of the year that you paid the taxes as a business person. So how can you open a TIN, a tax identification number? Use the website, check out NRS website, or walk up to any of their outlets and you can open. Google how to Google Nigerian Revenue Services or Google TIN number, and then you see how to generate your TIN number from their generated website, from their website. Or if not, go to any of their outlets. Like I said, each state has an outlet, a board that collects taxes, right? And most times is being represented by the state FIRS, right? State Board of Inland Revenue, that has that. So you can also walk up, just the way you go to your driver's license, it's the same way you can also get your tax identity number. So in a nutshell, and then other questions that we've answered and asked, and have been asked and have been answered. So yes, like I said, this is Navigate Live class. I don't know if you've learned or gained something. Drop in the comment section so we know that we are together. I hope you are not more confused. You've gotten more clarity. Yes, you've gotten more clarity, right? So thank you so much for staying. So you can like, subscribe. We'll be having much and much more interesting sessions that will be coming up in coming days and coming months. So please do well to stay tuned, right? We can't say everything on one session. So do well to follow through, stay true with us. We'll be having lots of exciting other sessions to come. So thank you so much for staying true up to this point. Thank you and thank you. And with that, we've come to the end. We also want to say a big thank you to Barrister Ayomide for being here. And thanks to me too. Yeah, so thank you, Barrister Ayomide, for your time, and thank you for honoring us with your presence and your knowledge. We also want to thank the the producers. We also want to thank the visioneer. We also want to thank the technical units and every other person that made this session possible. Thank you so much for your input. We say thank you. Thank you once again, everyone. A special thanks to you for being a part and for staying true to this end. So please, you can use the comment section to give a round of applause to yourself, a round of applause to the conveners, and a round of applause to the speakers that have spoken. Thank you, and thank you once again. And with that, we've come to the end of today's session, not the end of Navigate Your Life class, but the end of this session. Thank you. I remain Brown Elizabeth, and do have a lovely night's rest. Thank you.